Night Wolf wins. Round 2, fight! Well done. Cyrax wins. Round 3, fight! Finish done. Flawless victory. Round 1, fight! Wins. Round 2, fight! Well done. Finish him. Wins. Sub-Zero. Round 1, fight! Sub-Zero wins. Round 2, fight! Round 3, fight! Fatality. Round 1. Fight! Superb. Sub-Zero wins. Round 2. Fight! Sub-Zero wins. Round 1. Fight! Fight! Jax wins. Night Wolf. Round 1. Fight! Fight! Finish him. Night Wolf wins. Round 1. Fight! Night Wolf wins. Round 2. Fight! Finish him. Fight! Superb. Finish him. Sector wins. Round one. Fight! Round one. Fight! Round 2. Fight! Liu Kang wins. Round 3. Fight! Outstanding. Superb. Outstanding. Finish him. Cyrax wins. Fatality. Round 1. Fight! Shang wins. Round 2. Fight! Finish him. Shang wins. Round 1. Fight! Sector wins. Round 2. Fight! Finish him. Sector wins. Fatality. Round 1. Fight! Superb. Round 2. Fight! Wins. Round 3. Fight! Round 1. Fight! Wins. Round 2. Fight! Sector wins. Flawless victory. Round 3. Fight! Wins. Round 1. Fight! Cyrax wins. Round 2. Fight! Outstanding.
Testing a game was always one of the most fun parts of the job.
Yeah! In the earliest days of Mortal Kombat development, the only place you could play the game was in Ed's office. I would play the game every day. Ed would call me in to try something out, but other people, would walk by Ed's office and see what he was working on and come in and play the game. And it was very valuable feedback, because that feedback was coming from guys like Eugene and Mark Trammell and George Petro and a lot of the other developers in the office at the time. Eventually, we would put a game out in the hallway for anybody to play. And so we'd get pinball designers would come down and play the game. There were folks who worked in the factory would come back and they would play the game. And so we'd watch folks kind of play the game, and we'd take notes on sort of what the reactions were. And then eventually that would lead to our first weekend test.
Testing the game in the arcade was such a critical part of determining what's working and what doesn't work.
Being on test is like one of the best parts, one of the most exciting parts of doing an arcade game.
Our first location test was a weekend test that we did, and that was done at an arcade called Times Square. It was a Friday night, so it was packed. The arcade was packed. And there was a crowd around the Street Fighter game. Street Fighter 2 was out at the time. And I just thought, there's no way these guys are coming over to play our game.
It was like this big event. The whole video game department would go, no matter whose game it was.
You'd roll a blank black cabinet into an arcade and just turn it on.
When we brought the first Mortal Kombat game out on test, there were 6 characters. We didn't have Sonya yet. A whole bunch of things just weren't working. And it was all about just kind of the fundamentals, the feel of it, the reaction to the visual, the reaction to blood.
That rush, that reverie, or that destruction and devastation if something doesn't work out, like, it's like, oh, we got to fix that, and it hurts, it feels bad.
I remember watching the first player, he was one of the guys from the crowd, walking over and looking at the attract mode and then dropping a token in and playing the game. And then I remember he walked over, tapped, fell on the shoulder, called him over, and then the other guy came over, and then they played the game. And then slowly people migrated over.
Whenever you would see a secret move come out, I remember the first time they saw Raiden do the dive move, you'd hear an audible, cheering or gasp. How did you do that? Easily the most enjoyable part for me was seeing and hearing reactions from players.
And at some point, Ed, I think, went in and he did a fatality. Kind of a thing, and then he walked away, now it's a big frenzy to figure out, like, how do you do that? How do you do that? And that's how people found out about the fatalities. Assuming my memory is correct, but I believe that's how it happened.
We would never perform fatalities in front of people because then someone's going to see you do it, right? Like, we wanted to launch the game and have people discover it naturally and organically.
Testing the first Mortal Kombat, there was a certain amount of anonymity, I guess you can say. Like, we could be in an arcade watching with a crowd of other people and be close enough in age to them that we just kind of blend in. What is this new game? And then you would get a candid response. Once you tell them that you worked on the game, then they're not going to say anything negative about it.
Across the street from Times Square was a pizza place. And so we would go across the street, get some pizza, and we would discuss, everything that we saw, what was cool, what was not cool, or, what should we change? Hey, that was cool. And it was so much fun.
Seeing that first game on test was so reaffirming that we had something big. I saw players get so excited they just had to run. They just had to run around like in circles.
By the end of that night, we had a pack of players around our game, hooting and hollering and just having a great time.
players that we saw first see the game on a Friday, we saw them the entire weekend.
And I think at that point I thought, okay, we're gonna be okay.
This was our first game that we were doing kind of as the leaders of the games. You know, Mark Trammell was the kind of leader of the Smash TV team, and Eugene was kind of the leader of the High Impact team, along with John Newcomer. And so this was kind of like our first solo project.
I think they have complementary skill sets.
We're symbiotic in a way. Certainly in the first few games, it was just like we just knew what the other person was looking for. And I don't know that we ever, I mean, if we had an argument, it certainly wasn't about the work that we were doing. We just seemed to know what the other person was looking for.
They worked well because they trusted each other's talents enough to say, okay, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Ed took care of all the programming. John took care of all the art.
They just had this unsaid, hey, you know, it'd be fun. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it.
Working with Ed, one of his great strengths were just his focus, I think, and his ability to just grind and get things done. Ed, who was the sole programmer to create that game, in hindsight, was incredible.
For one programmer to do all those games is pretty amazing. And
His door is always open. He wants to hear new ideas. He's dangerously funny, where it just busts me up at least once a day.
He would just crack us up all the time, just his jokes, and he made it easy to work the long hours.
John is a really good storyteller. John has a history in as a comic book artist. So I think that probably contributed to his ability to tell a compact story. The only story we had was a little paragraph that would play underneath the character doing a kata, but that was enough to really intrigue players.
You really gave a shit about it because of the backstory, because about the whole mythology that John Tobias had created. You know, maybe not unlike WWF or something, almost like Star Wars in martial arts.
The first game truly was like an expression of just who we were at the time. You know, we were in our early 20s, the stuff that we consumed growing up as kids, and we just threw it all into the game. There was nobody telling us what to do, how to do it.
I think it was a great partnership, and I think, you know, what can you say? Success beyond belief.
Fighting games have proven themselves to be strong collectors suitable for a wide range of locations. They embody the most attractive elements of the arcade experience: characters endowed with mythic powers, full player control, secret moves, and the kind of unbridled, head-to-head competition that compels repeat buy-in. Now from Midway comes Mortal Kombat. It captures the most popular elements of the fighting game and adds more. More control, more powerful characters, more depth, more secret moves, and advanced digitized graphics, delivering the most realistic fighting action available. Begin Mortal Kombat by choosing one of 7 characters, each boasting an arsenal of unique talents. There's Johnny Cage, the brash Hollywood movie star; Kano, thief and mercenary; Raiden, the mythical thunder god; Liu Kang, the fighting Shaolin monk; Scorpion, a ninja warrior bent on revenge; Sub-Zero, the ultimate assassin; and Sonya, U.S. Special Forces soldier. Each player has 5 basic moves corresponding to the 5 action buttons. High punch, high kick, low punch, low kick, and a block. In addition to these moves, players will continue to discover new joystick button combinations. Each new technique provides another competitive edge. For example, moving the joystick away from your opponent while pressing the low kick button will result in this sweep kick. Moving the joystick straight down will put the player in a crouch. By then releasing the joystick and pressing low punch, you'll administer a devastating uppercut.
Johnny Cage wins. Excellent.
Secret moves play a big part in the success of any fighting game. Collections soar as players strive to develop a character's full fighting potential. Mortal Kombat has several times more secret moves than the nearest competitor. The button joystick combinations required to execute these moves are different for each character, as are the moves themselves. And each character's arsenal of secret moves offers unique tactical advantages. If you learn one of Sonya's secret moves, you'll be able to perform this devastating scissor throw. Learning to activate Raiden's secret weapon lets you fire lightning bolts at your opponents.
Raiden wins.
Victory is achieved by winning 2 out of 3 rounds. Players losing a match will have to buy in to continue.
Liu Kang wins.
Finally, winning 3 matches against paired adversaries will put you in the ring opposite Goro, a 4-armed, unstoppable titan, half human, half dragon. Should Goro be subdued, you'll engage the most deceptive and powerful opponent of all, Shang Tsung, the bloodthirsty emperor capable of instantly becoming any fighter he chooses. Conquer Shang Tsung, and you will have joined unfrequented ranks, those who have battled all adversaries, yet survived. Every 5 matches during both 1- and 2-player games, you'll have a chance to test your strength and win bonus points by smashing progressively harder objects. Two-player mode allows true head-to-head combat. Players must rely on their fighting abilities, as well as a knowledge of their character's strengths, as they are matched against an opponent with different, but equally lethal, abilities. Each player selects a character and the match begins. The player losing the best-of-3 match will have the option of buying in to continue. The winning player will continue to play as long as he maintains a string of victories. Loser pays, winner stays. From a technical standpoint, operators will find even more to like. Mortal Kombat employs Midway's exclusive diagnostic package and a sensitive yet durable 8-way microswitch joystick. In addition, operators will want to be aware of a dip switch setting we've included, allowing them to temper the game to fit the requirements of a location. By simply flipping a switch on the CPU board, you're able to remove any depictions of blood that would otherwise appear in the game. Another dip switch will disable the most graphic secret moves. In this way, operators can be sure they're matching the game to the disposition of their clientele. Mortal Kombat is quite simply the most complete video fighting game available. It boasts the industry's most realistic graphics, digitized images of real martial arts experts, heroic characters more powerful than those found on any other fighting game, secret moves to learn and master, and fierce battles against titanic adversaries. All of these elements combine to make this game powerfully unique, the world's most advanced interactive fighting experience.
Fighting games of that era kind of all had this level of secrecy to them. Mortal Kombat, I think, took that to a very extreme level.
You had to guess like the moves and how to figure out the codes.
I think Street Fighter did something like that, right? They didn't document any of the moves, so we took that same approach.
I think not having a move list, there was so much to explore and you had no idea of what you were still missing. It was another thing, it built up so much mystique to the game.
But then we kind of extended it, right, with the fatalities and whatnots. Especially at the end with the character Dizzy, there was a certain amount of, you know, what are you gonna do? You would see them trying to trigger something else. They knew that there was something secret in there.
The announcer's like, finish him! And you go up and go, boom. And you're like, damn it! I screwed up the fatality. It's like the worst feeling in the world.
And, you know, everyone was playing as Kano because in the early days before people, you know, knew what most of the moves were, Kano's moves were just, I don't know, move the joystick in a circle real fast and he'll turn into a ball and do it, or hit block and mash the buttons, I don't know.
First character I played was Kano, and I found the ball attack and the knife throw, and within the first day I found the fatality too.
Kano wins.
I was finding stuff right away.
I remember being in your office, and I remember you showing me what the button combinations were, and then you have to be standing this far away from the other character, and I remember thinking to myself, there's no way anybody's gonna figure this out. No one's ever gonna do this. And literally, like the first weekend, they figured it out right away, yeah.
You know, the fatalities and special moves and things, like those were things that you kind of had to trade around.
Because you'd hear people chattering like, oh, there's this move, and not having the internet at the time to go to, it made it very social.
If you knew something that wasn't, you know, widespread knowledge, you could take that down to the arcade and pull it out on somebody and really blow some mind.
So a lot of hand watching. Where did you stand? The most premium spots are literally right behind it, like right between two people, or on the corners, because those are the only spots where you were able to see the screen and people's hands at the same time.
There was so much in there, and it really requires a fan base to come together and share, to work together to play them and solve them and uncover the secrets and all that stuff.
I was always obsessed with those kinds of things. I was a big fan of Street Fighter, and there was this rumor that was not true that there was a character in there called Sheng Long. And I remember when we had started this game thinking, you know, we have to have a real secret character. And so there was a Sunday, and Scorpion was yellow, Sub-Zero was blue, and I went into the art program and tinted him green, made up these crazy rules in terms of how to find him, made him jump out occasionally and kind of tease you with his existence. Put it together in one day, didn't even tell John about it, and was just kind of wondering how many people are going to pick up on this. It became a bit of like a Bigfoot. Some people had sightings and some people didn't, because there was this one that was real and was rather difficult to find. It could give players a little bit of creative license to come up with something and say that they did see something else happening in the game.
The level of secrets that happened in those first few Mortal Kombat games kind of corresponds with the rise of the internet. And people started trading around like, hey, here's a list of, I think these are fatalities.
I remember going home to my dad's house, and he had internet. He had a CompuSearch account. And I started just learning as much as I could. And I'm like, Dad, can I go back to the arcade? I want to try some of this stuff.
I made it my mission to test all that stuff out. And that became my calling. We need to investigate.
And I published my first FAQ, and it is the most inaccurate piece of junk that is available. It's like shameful, but it's where I started.
And then, you know, all these urban legends about Ermac and all these other alleged characters that it's kind of like, you know, how the kids used to say back in the day, the negative worlds in Mario Brothers and Mario could go skiing. You know, it's that kind of like, you know, the kid equivalent of water cooler conversations.
People would come up with lore, you know,
Yeah,
lies
right.
of,
That's right.
I did this and that happened, and everybody's, you know, and we just shut up.
A friend of mine in high school said he was cousins with someone who filmed for the game, and that there was a secret character that they had filmed. So I put it in my FAQ, and I trusted him and found out way later he was just messing with me.
The people feeding in things that they'd want to see in the game would kind of blend in with what was really there. Sometimes you'd see a move and then it was gone. You'd be like, I swear this was in there. Did that really happen? Like, there was no way to capture it.
A friend of mine, his little brother was playing the game and told me about Kano's laser beam.
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
and I remember telling my friend's younger brother, there's no laser beam. He's like, no, I saw it. And so I know he's mistaken with what, I don't know what he saw, but he didn't see that. This mythology was being built by the player base. I think we understood that pretty early on, and Ed, more than anybody, I think really took advantage of that and kind of messed with the players with hiding stuff in the game.
Yeah, I remember somebody found one of Sonya's moves, and I foolishly changed it because I read it on a news group, thinking, yeah, I got the best of that.
And they did some devious things to keep a lot of those things secret. I think there was a revision of Mortal Kombat 2 where they just arbitrarily changed all the fatalities because everyone figured them out too fast. And it's maybe the most devious and mean thing they've ever done.
I remember thinking at that point, yeah, this internet thing has gotten, you can't defeat it. It's just too powerful.
One of the fun things about going to an arcade was, a lot of people didn't have the internet just yet. So people would show up with their copy of their FAQ. Once I was there and I saw someone with my guide, like my FAQ, and I was like, oh, where'd you get that? He's like, oh, the guy who wrote it sold it to me. And I was like, what do you mean sold it to you? I wrote it.
We had a Mortal Kombat comic book that John drew, and we were the ones stuffing the envelopes, and we started writing messages to players. Sonya has a slide move, She didn't have a slide move. Within a week, I was at, it was like Galen Orange or something arcade, and some guy was playing Sonya, just keep trying these things. And one of the guys said, what are you looking for? And he goes, I'm looking for Sonya's slide move, Poor guy was, looking for it. But we were just adding fuel to that fire.
Most of those secrets went unknown to me until much later in life when walkthroughs on YouTube became a thing. And I was like, whoa, I totally missed a lot of stuff in a lot of games.
To us, secrets were basically replay value. And that was the most important thing for us. Having more to do with the game, having more to discover, more to enjoy.
We love the idea of, just this question mark over the game. What else is in there that nobody else has found? And it just made the game that much more mysterious, right?
The first time I saw a The first time I saw a crowd gathered around a Mortal Kombat cabinet when I was 10 told me that, okay, this game is a big deal at my arcade. I had no idea if that translated outside my arcade. Then Mortal Monday happened. Not just the day itself, but the build up to it.
Seeing the zeitgeist around it was huge. Conversations around Mortal Monday were happening, the first kind of big marketing push.
Acclaim was clearly, they knew what they had in their hands, and so they were doing a much bigger effort in promoting it. I remember them telling us that they were going to spend $10 million to advertise this game. And I remember saying, you know, are you sure you want to put that kind of money behind this? And you know, in retrospect, of course that was a great decision. But I remember being really paranoid thinking, you know, that they were putting a lot on this game.
The preparation for the release of Mortal Kombat was just massive. I was working at Babbage's software. Pre-sales had started early, so like we knew we were going to be just selling out. It was all I could talk about.
I remember going to see a movie, I can't remember which film it was, and they were advertising Mortal Mondays, which was one of the greatest marketing blitzes in video game history. And it was just, you know, all these random kids yelling in the middle of a city street, Mortal Kombat, right?
That commercial with like people running down the street screaming Mortal Kombat, and they were teens and I was a little kid, and teens are the coolest thing you could be when you're a little kid.
You don't have to show screenshots or anything else necessarily. Everybody knew. All you have to do is just have somebody out in the middle of the street just putting up his arms saying Mortal Kombat. It's almost like, hi, it's here. It sells itself.
We were all like, yo, did you see that Mortal Kombat commercial? What is Mortal Kombat? And there was always like one kid who knew a little more. It's a video game, but you kill people. And all of us at Maplewood Elementary School were like, whoa!
We had 2 front monitors that were just showcasing Mortal Kombat videos. And
in the comics, on the back of the comics, there were Mortal Monday ads. There were Mortal Kombat ads in magazines. There were Mortal Kombat ads in subways.
You know, just seeing the standees and the posters and things at Times Square and
the signage that was coming in, every piece of memorabilia that was coming in, and t-shirts, and it was just over the top compared to other games.
I remember just being nervous about it, thinking, I hope this game lives up to it. Even though it was a huge arcade game, you know, you just never know at home.
It was insane. There was a giant line, and it was just so exciting.
That's when I realized, like, this is actually a bigger deal than maybe any video game that's come before it. Mortal Kombat became a pillar of popular culture within 12 months. It was, I think, the fastest a video game had ever exploded to date.
Nothing could prepare you for it. It was, it was just insane.
Mustard and myself grew up in a really small town. The closest thing you would have to an arcade machine is the local bowling alley may have had like a light gun game, but that's pretty much it. It was only the home versions that allowed us to experience the different franchises, and I feel like I unofficially speak for quite a lot of people our age, how important getting those home versions as good as they were was. So that the rest of us could still experience it in different parts of the world, but arcades weren't as common, especially those small towns.
Which side was I on in the home versions? There's only one side. Like, what do you know, it's just the Genesis version. There's only one version of the game. The Super Nintendo version is a travesty by comparison.
I actually thought that even though the Genesis was a little behind graphically than the Super Nintendo, I liked the grittier look of the Genesis version. It really felt kind of down and dirty the way Mortal Kombat should.
I mean, also the Genesis version had the blood code. And the real fatalities and the Dullard code and all the other cool stuff in it. I think that made up for like the music in the Genesis version being really hokey and some of that other stuff.
My friend had a Genesis. They got Mortal Kombat. His mom would come in every now and then just to look at the screen to make sure there was no blood flying.
Finish him.
And so what we would do is we would enter the blood code, we'd play a match or two, and then we'd hit reset, turn off the blood code, keep playing when she came in, and then she'd leave and we'd turn the blood code back on.
Nintendo screwed the pooch when they didn't allow the blood in the game, and they instead put sweat in it, which the Genesis version outsold the SNES version like 3-1 or something like that. Everybody wanted the violence, you know, they wanted the blood.
The Super Nintendo version feels like mud. Like the act of playing that game is so unlike playing the actual arcade game.
So I really wanted Mortal Kombat. Not just to fit in, but because I loved it. I wanted it so bad, but my family didn't have a ton of money. So I scraped together all the money I had, and I was able to finally afford Mortal Kombat for the Game Boy. And that game is a experience. When you play Mortal Kombat in the arcade, it's a little bit heavy and you feel the power of those hits. Mortal Kombat on the Game Boy moved like two frozen people were slowly trying to get close enough to hug. Like when you'd push the punch button, it would eventually move the fist forward a little bit at maybe 1 frame per minute. I cannot do a fatality in this game. I know for a fact they exist because the computer can do the fatalities on that pit level. Instead of having them fall off the stage onto spikes, at the end of each part of the level were just little drawn spikes in the background that you could knock them onto. And I think that was their like makeshift solution for having a stage-based fatality. Even as a kid, I knew it was not the best version, but I loved it so much. I even put in a Game Genie code that let you play as Goro. Like, I did every secret possible. I was gonna squeeze every single dollar I put into that game. And I still own it, and I'll still play it occasionally because I'm kind of a masochist, but there's something special about it. There's something that's kind of like pure about a Mortal Kombat game that's so weird and watered down and slow that it almost circles back around to being kind of creepy and mysterious.
I mean, they may not have been like arcade perfect, but to us, we didn't know any better. We didn't have anything to comparison. All we cared about was just, you know, play the game, have fun with it, you know, and enjoy what we were doing, and that was about it.
Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent.
Video games were becoming more and more sophisticated, maturing.
It was around that time that we were realizing that video games aren't just for kids. The manufacturers of the home consoles still kind of thought of them that way. It's like, hey, this is a toy for kids.
We never made Mortal Kombat for 6-year-olds or anything like that. That was never the intention. 4 guys in their 20s, what kind of video game are they going to make?
In our minds, we were creating the game for a certain demographic of player.
Fans of Terminator, Bloodsport, Alien, Predator, you know, all these movies. It was a game by guys in their 20s, 4 guys in their 20s. And nobody mentioned anything during the arcade days.
Once the game came home on the consoles, it came into people's living rooms. That was a shocker to the moms and dads of suburbia.
Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent.
My parents were very worried about the violence in Mortal Kombat because eventually they saw the news stories. They saw the news stories that were like, you could rip out someone's spine or you could light them on fire. Like, I had a friend who was not allowed to go to another friend's house because he had played Mortal Kombat with him.
And we also really didn't see a lot of animated blood in video games back then. It seems so commonplace today.
What is the difference in between this and violent movies? Why is it different?
No one's looking at movies in the same way as they're looking at video games.
Rock music before it, and comics and heavy metal.
You know, I grew up at a time, Elvis Presley's body was blacked out from the waist down because he was gyrating, and God only knows what that's going to do to today's youth.
I do think that there was a number of kind of politicians and other people who were looking for a scapegoat. Kind of this was it. It came along at the right time.
Kato wins. Flawless victory.
It was just like, video games are bad, and these are the ones doing it. I think the thing that made me most angry about it was it just felt like no one involved in any of this had ever actually played a video game or seen this stuff outside of very carefully selected footage.
It was like fairly like kind of innocuous, and it was like kind of cartoon violence.
And yeah, it seems violent, but ultimately it's really just funny.
Yeah, it's like Evil Dead, isn't it?
The very idea that like Mortal Kombat was somehow going to destroy society or the fabric of our youth or anything was always ridiculous.
These home games had no system of ratings, right? Like a CD would say explicit lyrics or something. A movie would say rated R for violence or, whatever. And I think to me that was the fundamental issue. Somebody noticed and somebody objected to it, and we certainly didn't disagree with it.
And so I think that the reaction from Congress and everything at the time almost to me felt appropriate.
Yeah, I'd say having the conversation about violence in video games and ratings in video games ultimately is something that was going to happen sooner or later. Is the industry going to be able to self-regulate, or is the government going to have to come in and do a bunch of really dumb things?
I think that the rating system helps people make more informed decisions about what they're buying, and that included Mortal Kombat. If you're a parent who bought their kids games, they probably shouldn't have been playing Mortal Kombat unless you could supervise them. It was the next step in the maturity of the industry, and the rating system was kind of emblematic of that. It was a way to say, hey, here's this type of game, here's the type of content, make your own choice.
The rating system and stuff that came from it felt like the right choice, to make.
I think that if video games were like a squalling infant that was just learning how to crawl, Mortal Kombat got them toddling on their feet.
Our experience with the first Mortal Kombat was, it turned out great, but the game was very rushed. It was an 8-month project from, concept to shipped game, which was crazy when you think about that. Certainly in my head, there was 10 things that I would have done differently.
Shortly after Mortal Kombat 1, Ed and I started to think about what do we want to do next. And one idea we had was we wanted to do a Star Wars game. Ken Fedesna came down, and I remember us talking excitedly about Star Wars. And Ken's response was, Star Wars, what are you guys talking about with this Star Wars, business? You guys have got to do a sequel to this game. And so that was the first time that I thought, oh, okay, I guess, we're signed up for a sequel.
So new hardware came, new tools came.
Warren Davis and all these guys, Todd Allen, everybody was like working on tools to make things better, and we just inherited that.
Oh my God.
One of the things that is better about Mortal Kombat 2 from Mortal Kombat 1 is the graphics. Originally, everything was done off of VHS tapes, and it was kind of blurry and stuff.
We eventually started capturing images directly onto the hard drive as opposed to putting it on videotape and then going to the hard drive.
Okay, ready? Ready? Is it live or is it ready to go? That was good.
That allowed us to knock out that losty videotape format that would bleed onto everything.
It just became a more efficient process, a cleaner image for sure.
Outstanding.
We added much better kind of combo system that was going.
Jax wins.
You could turn around and kick. Which to this day I can't believe the first Mortal Kombat doesn't have. A lot bigger of a roster. We wanted to expand, so we had 12 characters and added Jax. That was huge. Katana Molina, who are synonymous with Mortal Kombat at this point.
One of the reasons I know that we swapped Sonya for Katana Molina was because of their masks. We were able to get 2 for 1. So the same palette swapping technique we used for Scorpion and Sub-Zero, we thought, okay, let's take advantage of this with the female characters.
Katana wins. Fatality.
Tony Goski, graphic genius.
Hey, it's Ed, John, Tobias, and Mark Trammell walked in my office
Ed says, "Hey Tony, we're thinking if do you want to work on Mortal Kombat?" And I was an instant yes.
Tony Goski was working on a game called NBA Jam, and he was doing a great job, but he, in his heart, he was a traditional painter, and so when Mortal Kombat 2 came along, he was a perfect fit.
It was suited my style and things I enjoyed. Fantasy art, starting to get into surrealism with, like say, Dali and Magritte, and I kind of just went that direction,
Tony Goski defined the majority of the look and feel of Mortal Kombat 2, specifically the backgrounds.
Tony's influence came into what does Outworld look like? What does, this really mysterious Mortal Kombat, this fantasy Mortal Kombat, what does that look like?
Introducing the Outworld was huge because it completely carved a new look for Mortal Kombat. Kind of used like Chinese influence, but with graphic and surrealism kind of coming together. Pit was an iconic stage in MK1, so we made the Pit 2. The person, dun dun dun, gets hit, and it would do what we would call a camera cut now, but it would just do a top view of the person doing like this, and the background would scale up, and clunk.
Reptile wins.
He came up with this living forest, and he put my face on the trees.
Oh man.
Albert Brooks all over it. All had to be drawn.
No digitizing for Tony.
What? I did digitize the tree and Ed's face. We would digitize that, and then I would draw on top of it the bark and everything to make it look like a tree. Obviously, we all like horror movies and things that are like shocking. You go all the way to the left, and there's a tree kind of looking straight down the fight line, and that's based off Ash from The Evil Dead. That was like one of my favorite backgrounds to work on.
When I was a teenager, I did some stop-action animation just for fun with a Super 8 camera, with clay and toys and stuff like that. When doing Kintaro, there weren't a lot of frames to begin with. It's like, bow, 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 and you would hang on that last, hit or whatever. I would sort of try to mimic what John was doing with main characters as I was doing Kintaro. For me, what was most exciting was there was this fiction that we would tell a little bit of story just through a couple sentences in the attract mode. And so once the talk of a sequel came about, I knew that, okay, this is our opportunity to tell all this story that we alluded to in the first game. Now we can sort of move things forward. And so we're so young. It was just like, cool, we're gonna do a number 2. Okay. And that's about my thought process, cool, I still have a job.
Initially we had Ed being the announcer for the first Mortal Kombat as Shang Tsung.
Kano. Scorpion. Fight. Excellent.
And then we wanted to go a different direction for the second one. And so they created this character, Shao Kahn.
Round one, fight.
And I'm sure everyone was like, oh yeah, that's going to be Steve. You know?
It's high impact football. Fire, power, 1, 2, enemy destroyed. I am the Black Knight. Voice work in games, I loved it. I loved doing it. If they wanted me, I was there.
If you want a dude with a heavy, deep voice, then you could pitch it down some more and make it sound super basso profundo, that's the guy.
They wanted me to be a 200-year-old Asian man, martial artist. Dan had a structure and a language and a way for me to speak.
Here's the list, do these things, and then a little bit of coaching.
Sonia, Baraka. Round 1, fight.
And he, did a great job. And that's it. That's what you hear in the game.
Finish him. Baraka wins. Flawless victory. Fatality.
That voice is, it's my favorite voice. It's fatality. I want to be that guy.
So Ed and I, we worked on these games, and we really liked playing super high impact. There was a machine in the hallway in the back, and we'd go there, have a game or two. In that game, you pick your play, and then the lines come together before you hike the ball. And so as they're doing that, I'm saying, I predict that you're toast. And that evolved into, I predict toasty. And Ed would crack up. George Petro said, you guys should put some of that silly stuff you do in the game. And we're like, yeah, whatever. And go on our day. And then, a couple weeks later, Ed talks to me. He's like, hey, would you be cool if we took your face and when every 100th uppercut, your face comes out and says toasty in the corner of the screen? And I'm like, sure, let's do that. So that's how that happened. Silliness, right? It's good to have a little bit of silliness.
What you should do, Carlos, is just try to jump off. Just try to actually jump straight up and land on your back. I can do that, but I need to land the other way. Is it Elvis? Is it? Okay, ready? Ready? Is it live or is it ready to go? That was good.
That was much better.
There's a story.
Hey, Tony, what did you do in Turtles 3? You just played
Hey, I saw the trailer for that yesterday?
Yeah, you're the one that told me about that. They interviewed him, all that stuff like that.
Yeah. Right, but it's like 2 frames that
Right.
that we use.
See, that's not bad. Okay, you know what? That's enough.
Oh my God, that was the best one.
Once in a lifetime, a game comes along that transcends our industry. The theme connects with something deep inside us and embeds itself firmly in the popular culture. Once in a lifetime, a game takes on a life of its own. To millions worldwide, it becomes more than just a video game. It becomes an obsession, a controversy. And they just can't wait to take it home. We've created a monster! Actually, we've created several. What if we could outdo our previous successes? What if we could create a new fighting machine? One that eclipsed every fighting game ever made. One with more depth and more characters. What if, amidst all the furor and recognition, we could release to the world the ultimate fighting experience? We can, and we will, right now. Here it is, Mortal Kombat 2. More characters, 3 times more images, more secret moves, more battlegrounds, more hidden surprises. And it's the first video game to feature our crystal clear DCS sound. These are the 12 combatants. Each possesses an array of special strengths. Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Johnny Cage, Reptile, Sub-Zero, Shang Tsung, Kitana, Jax, Mileena, Baraka, Scorpion, and Raiden. Get to know these characters, because when it comes to fighting for profits, they're all in your corner. Mortal Kombat 1 has started an unstoppable global fire, and notoriety has fanned the flames. The world's players have embraced these characters, and they're begging us for more. Never before has a game been so perfectly poised for such massive success. What was a roaring blaze will now become a raging inferno of profit. Get ready to feel the heat of Mortal Kombat 2. The world's ultimate fighting machine.
Mortal Kombat 2. More characters, 3 times more images, more secret moves.
The coolest thing about Mortal Kombat 2 is I didn't know it was coming out.
I knew it was probably being worked on, and there was just rumors floating about.
I never even thought of a sequel. I was so fixated on the first game.
I had no idea. Nobody at my school had mentioned it.
It wasn't until I walked into it was an arcade called Uncle Bob's, and there it was already.
The first thing I saw was somebody slicing someone in half with Kung Lao's hat. And I remember being like, what? There's a Mortal Kombat 2, and it is crazy!
A friend came running into band class one day and said, oh, there's a Mortal Kombat 2. I saw this new character. He's a monster. He's got knives for hands.
Baraka was the first character I picked. I kept pumping quarters in. It was so exciting to see the advancements and the new characters.
There is a specific reason that Mortal Kombat 2 is my absolute favorite game in the entire series. And that is because of Katana's easiest in the world fatality. Walk up to the person and hit block, 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 high kick.
Katana wins.
I was immediately a master of her.
Fatality.
I still main Melina whenever I play MK2, and I can do that back down, low punch to do that kind of roll thing, and then forward, low kick to do that kind of teleport from the ceiling kind of thing.
It looked bigger, it looked better, it looked badder, it was bloodier. The animation was more fluid. It looked like a comic book, and that's not something I ever thought I would ever want from a Mortal Kombat game.
Sub-Zero wins. Fatality.
But like I said, I never even dreamed of a sequel. One day there it was, and it was fantastic.
The favorite characters are back, so you have kind of that step into it. The excitement was just incredible.
I remember seeing Mortal Kombat 2. It's the level that has it Shao Kahn, the big bad guy, who had the people chained up on the pedestals in the background. You were fighting your opponent, but there was the sense of storytelling in the actual level design, and that was one of the first times I had seen that and been like, that's really cool and that's really, really clever.
And I still bought the Game Boy versions, just because Game Boy was the system I played the most. And what's interesting is that Mortal Kombat 2 for the Game Boy is fantastic. It is an amazing fighting game port. It's an amazing fighting game for a portable system with no power.
I played a ton of Mortal Kombat 2 on Super Nintendo. I would have friends over. My living room kind of became a mini arcade. All the blood and gore was there.
and it was fantastic.
Fatality.
It felt pretty darn close to arcade perfect. So haha, at that time, Nintendo came out on top.
Raven wins. Fatality.
I got put on as the lead on the second one, and that's where we really made the right decisions, which was nice.
MK2 was great and stuff, but I really didn't want us to just do the same game with prettier graphics.
We were always trying to one-up what we did. Like, obviously,
For sure.
MK1, we had the, you'd fall into the pit. And that was great. It was always asking the question, well, what can we do next?
Reptile wins.
MK3 was like, now we're going to knock you upwards. Now we're going to knock you downwards.
Right.
Certainly the visual qualities of the backgrounds changed over time quite significantly.
As the story took it, MK3 was based more on Earth.
.3D technology played a part.
I had been learning how to sculpt things in 3D. I created what became the subway, and I showed Ed, I'm like, hey, we could actually just, instead of like going out and videoing stuff and getting things out of books or whatever, or even just drawing them, we could actually build them in 3D with correct lighting and stuff like that. And it could even help us do the parallaxing if we wanted to. He was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's go that route. So a lot of the backgrounds, I would kind of build them in 3D, and then Tony would take that and draw on it and dress them up, make them look better from there.
There's a look that's missing. It looked kind of too plastic and toyish and simple, but it was great for a starting point. We would always touch up over it. That would give it its clean look. And one of the backgrounds that we started with 3D was the Soul Chamber. I always like a star in the background, and I just coined the name Soulnado for the souls inside the mouth, and I drew that in deluxe paint, frame by frame.
I did a drawing of this in 3D just so you can make it any size and any lighting, any angle you wanted. This is it's just ornamental, it's just like kind of a really neat background thing.
We would always in Mortal Kombat put in names, our names, hidden somewhere sometimes. And mainly it was the graveyard.
I'm sure that I probably designed in 3D the tombstones, and Tony probably drew in our names. A lot of that grass, and maybe even putting the background in there, like the sky and stuff. Dave Mikicic joined our team, and he knew about Photoshop. We hadn't heard about Photoshop. Photoshop was new. He took that city scene with Shao Kahn's fortress in the distance. What I gave was kind of stale. It was very stark. He added like haze and all kinds of cool atmosphere with Photoshop. We started using Photoshop a lot after that.
Once we get the digitized image, it's a lot like painting. And right now we're going through a process where we sort of filter the images through. We'll grab the image and Steve Moran will start and do some Photoshop on the guy, and then we'll hand him over to Tony, who does some touch-up. And then it gets passed over to me, and then I do some of this more detailed touch-up, and then I give it back to Steve, and he kind of separates the different colors and creates the different palettes, and then we give it back to Tony, and he does the final touch-up and stuff and gets it ready for the game. I'm working on a friendship move for Shigoro character, and that's her tentative name. She didn't have a real name yet. The move is she's got to turn around and she's going to pull out sort of plates and little sticks, and she spins the plates and the sticks and balances them on her hand, and she does this with her back towards you.
I remember wanting the characters to be a little bit smaller. The reason I wanted them a little smaller was so they can have more lateral motion to run.
I remember having that conversation in Ed's office because my first reaction was, wait, we should be getting bigger. It's
Right.
like, what do you mean smaller, you know? The hardware, we can push more stuff, and we should be making them bigger. But it didn't last long. I think once the run button was in, you saw right away the value of the sprinting.
Round 1, fight.
I wanted it to be more aggressive. I always felt like our walking was a bit slow, and that really was pushing for the run.
To me, it feels weird when I play MK2. I feel like I'm in molasses. It's like, come on, you know, like, I just want to move faster. So.
We really loved to see players doing combos, but some players just couldn't uppercut somebody and then jump and then, you know, juggle them and do all these kind of. So we wanted something that was a little bit more mechanical, right? Like anybody can do 1-1-2 or something like that. Right, the whole dynamic of the game was just so aggressive. And some people were intimidated by that.
Finish him.
It was somewhat controversial. There was a guy who was a tech in our, you know, like where they would build the games. He was looking at it and he goes, you know, I don't know why you added the run button, you know, I don't know what that. And then, you know, fast forward 3 weeks.
Nightwolf wins.
He actually came by and said, you know, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, man. That thing was cool.